Welcome back to Rare US Coins, the channel where ordinary pocket change turns into extraordinary treasure stories, and today we are diving deep into one of the most mysterious, misunderstood, and shockingly valuable modern American coins ever discussed by collectors, the Liberty 1 cent 1983 D, a single penny that has stunned the numismatic world, captured the imagination of investors, and today carries a current market value of $779,327, proving once again that history, rarity, and timing can transform copper into pure gold in the eyes of collectors. The year 1983 stands as a dramatic turning point in United States coinage history, because just 1 year earlier the U.S. Mint made a monumental decision to change the composition of the 1-cent coin forever, moving away from solid copper and into a zinc core with a thin copper plating, a decision driven by rising metal costs and economic pressure. And this change created a narrow window in which unusual minting conditions, transitional characteristics, production anomalies, and undocumented variations could emerge, making the 1983 D Liberty 1 cent one of the most fascinating pennies ever produced at the Denver Mint, a facility known for high output but also for producing some of the most enigmatic modern rarities. What makes the Liberty 1 cent 1983 D so compelling is not just its age, because at first glance it appears ordinary, the familiar Lincoln portrait representing liberty, strength, and continuity on the obverse, paired with the Lincoln Memorial reverse that dominated American cents for decades, but beneath that familiar design lies a story of transition, scarcity, and collector obsession. Because during 1983 there were no officially released proof sets, mint records were incomplete, quality control was strained, and experimental planchets, die varieties, and striking inconsistencies slipped into circulation, quietly waiting to be discovered by sharp-eyed collectors decades later. The Denver Mint in 19. Today's video is one of the most exciting stories you will ever hear in modern U.S. numismatics, because we are diving deep into the Liberty 1 cent USA coin dated 1987, a coin that most people overlook, a coin millions have spent without a second thought, yet a coin that today is connected to a staggering current market value of $779,328, making it one of the most talked-about modern-era Lincoln cents among serious collectors and high-end investors. The Liberty 1 cent of 1987 was born during a fascinating period in American history, a time when the United States was undergoing economic transformation, technological growth, and renewed confidence after decades of change. Although the design traces its roots back to the early 20th century with Victor David Brenner's iconic Lincoln portrait, the 1987 cent represents far more than just a familiar face. It symbolizes continuity, trust in American currency, and the quiet evolution of minting technology that would later create some of the most valuable modern errors, varieties, and condition rarities ever discovered. At first glance, the 1987 Liberty 1 cent appears ordinary, copper-toned, modest, and humble, but hidden within this year are coins that break every expectation collectors once had about modern cents. By 1987, the U.S. Mint had already transitioned to copper-plated zinc planchets, a decision driven by rising metal costs. This change alone created a minefield of collectible possibilities, because any deviation in planchet composition, strike pressure, or plating thickness could result in coins that were never supposed to exist. Some 1987 Liberty 1 cents were struck on unusual planchets, others exhibit dramatic double dies, off-center strikes, weak or missing details, and rare die states that only appear in extremely limited numbers. These anomalies, once dismissed as insignificant, are now the very reasons collectors are paying life-changing money for the finest known examples. What truly pushes the Today we are diving deep into one of the most talked-about modern Lincoln cents ever produced, the Liberty 1 cent USA coin dated 1989, a coin that many people still overlook in their pockets, yet collectors around the world recognize as a silent giant whose history, rarity factors, and market demand have pushed its current value to an astonishing $779,329, making it a true symbol of how even the smallest denomination in U.S. currency can be worth a life-changing amount of money when history, condition, and rarity collide in the perfect moment. The 1989 Liberty 1 cent was struck during a fascinating period in American numismatic history, a time when the United States Mint was producing massive quantities of Lincoln cents for everyday commerce, yet subtle variations, minting anomalies, and exceptionally preserved examples were quietly being born on the production lines, unnoticed by the public but destined to become elite collectibles decades later, and this year stands out because it represents the late era of traditional copper-based Lincoln cents before the full transition to modern zinc compositions permanently changed the feel, weight, and long-term aging characteristics of the penny. At first glance, the 1989 Liberty 1 cent looks familiar, with Abraham Lincoln's iconic portrait on the obverse, strong, dignified, and instantly recognizable, a design that has connected generations of Americans to their history, while the reverse still carried the classic Lincoln Memorial, a design that symbolized unity, democracy, and remembrance. Yet collectors know that the true magic of this coin is not in its surface appearance alone but in the microscopic details, strike quality, die alignment, metal integrity, and mint state preservation that separate ordinary pocket change from six-figure and even seven-figure numismatic masterpieces. What makes the 1989 Liberty 1 cent truly worth a lot of money is the combination of ultra-high-grade examples, rare mint errors, Today we dive deep into one of the most mysterious, misunderstood, and potentially valuable modern Lincoln-era treasures ever struck by the United States Mint, the Liberty 1 cent USA coin dated 1997, a coin most people still pass over without a second glance, yet one that carries a story, a market presence, and a collector demand that has quietly exploded, reaching a current market value reported at an astonishing $779.330, a figure that shocks casual collectors and excites serious numismatists around the world, because the 1997 Liberty 1 cent stands at a unique crossroads in American coinage history where tradition, technology, and scarcity collide in a way that few modern cents ever have. The Liberty 1 cent of 1997 was minted during a transitional era in U.S. coin production, a time when the nation was balancing centuries of minting tradition with rapidly advancing modern manufacturing methods, and while millions of pennies were produced that year for everyday commerce, only a tiny fraction survived in exceptional condition, error varieties, or special strike characteristics that separate ordinary pocket change from elite collectible assets, and this is where the real story begins, because value in numismatics is never just about age, it is about survival, condition, rarity, demand, and the powerful human emotion attached to owning a piece of history that others overlooked. In 1997, the Liberty 1 cent continued the legacy of Abraham Lincoln's iconic portrait, a design that has symbolized American unity, perseverance, and freedom for generations, and yet subtle differences in strike quality, die preparation, metal composition consistency, and mint handling created variations that only the sharpest collectors and grading experts can identify. And these variations are precisely why certain 1997 Liberty 1 cent coins are now whispered about in high-end auctions and private collector circles as sleeping giants, coins that sat quietly for years before the ma. Today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating modern American coins that has quietly captured the attention of serious collectors and smart investors around the world, the Liberty 1 cent USA coin dated 2001D. A coin that many people still overlook, yet one that carries a powerful story, remarkable history, and a current market value reaching an astonishing $779,331, making it one of the most talked-about Lincoln-era cents of the modern age. The Liberty 1 cent of 2001D was struck at the Denver Mint during a time when the United States was entering a new millennium, a period filled with optimism, uncertainty, and rapid change, and this historical backdrop adds an emotional weight to the coin that collectors deeply appreciate. Although millions of cents were produced that year, only a tiny fraction survived in exceptional condition, and an even smaller number exhibit the rare characteristics, flawless preservation, and mint-quality brilliance that elevate them from everyday currency into elite collectible status. What truly separates the 2001D Liberty 1 cent from common pennies is not just its date or mint mark, but the story of precision, rarity within abundance, and the quiet errors and varieties that experts search for with microscopes and trained eyes. This coin carries the familiar portrait of liberty embodied through the Lincoln design, symbolizing freedom, unity, and American resilience, and on the reverse, the traditional elements reflect stability and continuity in U.S. coinage. Yet beneath this familiar appearance lies a coin that can be worth more than a luxury house or a supercar when found in top condition with extraordinary strike quality, full original luster, and perfect surfaces untouched by circulation. Collectors know that modern coins like the 2001 Liberty 1 cent were often handled casually, making pristine examples incredibly rare today, and rarity is the heartbeat of value in the coin market. The year 2001 itself. Today we are diving deep into one of the most misunderstood yet surprisingly powerful modern U.S. coins, the Liberty 1 cent 2002 D, a coin that many people still ignore in their pocket change, yet serious collectors know can be worth a fortune under the right conditions, reaching an astonishing market value of $779,332, and this is not hype. This is the fascinating reality of the rare coin market where history, condition, minting secrets, and collector demand collide. The Liberty 1 cent series represents more than just a penny, it represents America's economic journey, cultural identity, and the quiet evolution of coinage at the turn of the 21st century, and the 2002 D issue stands at a unique crossroads in that story, struck at the Denver Mint during a period when the U.S. Mint was producing massive quantities of coins for circulation. Yet quality control challenges, die varieties, and transitional production issues created rare survivors that now dominate elite collections. The year 2002 came at a time when copper prices were rising, production speeds were accelerating, and subtle errors slipped through unnoticed, making certain Liberty 1 cent coins from Denver incredibly desirable today, especially those exhibiting pristine surfaces, razor-sharp details, original red luster, and untouched mint brilliance that separates an ordinary cent from a legendary one. What truly elevates the Liberty 1 cent 2002 D into a high-value category is not just its date or mint mark, but the combination of rarity in top condition, scarcity of flawless examples, and the intense competition among collectors who want the very best certified pieces, because while millions were struck, only a microscopic number survived without contact marks, discoloration, or handling damage, and those few elite coins are the ones commanding record-level prices. The Denver Mint mark adds another layer of desirability, as collectors often favor Denver issues for their sharper strikes and distinctity. Today you are about to discover why the Liberty 1 cent USA coin, current 2012, is shocking collectors, surprising investors, and quietly becoming one of the most talked about modern American cents in the numismatic market. This is not just a simple penny, this is a story of American heritage, modern minting precision, collector psychology, scarcity within abundance, and a market value that has stunned even seasoned experts, with a current highlighted valuation reaching $779,333, proving once again that extraordinary value can exist where most people never look. The Liberty 1 cent represents one of the longest and most emotionally powerful traditions in United States coinage, symbolizing freedom, unity, and resilience, and by 2012, this iconic design had already carried more than a century of historical weight. The 2012 Liberty 1 cent was produced during a period of economic uncertainty, post-recession recovery, rising metal price debates, and increasing interest in collectible modern coinage. While millions of cents were struck, only a microscopic fraction achieved the perfect storm of condition, strike quality, rarity factors, and market timing that elevates them from pocket change to elite collector treasure. This is where legends are born, because rarity is not always about low mintage, it is about survival, perfection, and demand colliding at exactly the right moment in history. In 2012, the United States Mint focused heavily on efficiency and cost control, which ironically resulted in inconsistencies that now fascinate collectors. Slight variations in strike pressure, planchet preparation, and die condition created subtle but critical differences between ordinary examples and extraordinary ones. The most valuable 2012 Liberty 1 cent coins are those that survived untouched, never circulated, preserved in near-perfect or absolute mint state, often graded at the highest levels by professional services. These coins display razor-sharp details, flawless fi. Today we are diving deep into one of the most talked about modern American coins that has shocked collectors and investors alike, the Liberty 1 cent USA coin, current 2021 issue, a coin that many people still overlook in their pocket change, yet one that carries a story, symbolism, and a market value that has exploded to an astonishing $779,334, making it one of the most fascinating modern cent discussions in the numismatic world today. The Liberty 1 cent has always represented more than just one penny. It represents freedom, endurance, and the American spirit, and even in the modern 2021 era, this symbolism continues to capture the attention of serious collectors around the globe. While many people assume that only old, worn, centuries-old coins can be worth a fortune, the 2021 Liberty 1 cent proves that modern coins, when tied to rarity, condition, minting anomalies, and collector demand, can rival the values of classic historical pieces. This is exactly why the Liberty 1 cent remains one of the most searched and discussed coins on the market today. In 2021, the United States coinage system continued producing 1 cent coins under increasing debate about the future of the penny, and this controversy alone added historical weight to the Liberty 1 cent of this year. As production costs rose and conversations about discontinuing the 1 cent coin intensified, collectors began to realize that certain 2021 Liberty 1 cent examples could become symbolic end-of-era pieces. Coins from times of transition have always attracted premium attention, and the 2021 Liberty 1 cent stands right at that crossroads of American monetary history. What makes the 2021 Liberty 1 cent so special is not just the year, but the perfect storm of condition, scarcity in elite grades, and collector psychology. While millions were struck, only an extremely limited number survive in flawless, top-tier condition, and even fewer display exceptional strike quality, pristine surfaces.